What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, going to the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, I wanted to take this opportunity to update something that I talked about in my last video, but also discuss the news that we got today. So let's get it started. Welcome, everybody, to our video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, man, we are back with some Lions news. This is going to be very quick, but I did want to update something that I talked about in my last video, the Josh Reynolds video, and when I talked about the Lions salary cap situation, and it was kind of stuck on my mind that entire night of like, okay, wait, I overthought something. I overthought something major in that video, and I don't think I made it as clear as I should have, but there was also like a real question that was sticking with me between over the cap and Spotrac and the salary cap situation for the Lions, because they had different numbers. They had a pretty significant number difference in terms of how much cap space the Lions had. And I wanted to make sure that walking away from that video, stepping away from that video when I was thinking about it later, that I didn't give off the impression, the wrong one, for example. So we're going to dive into that in a second, but let's start with the news. And this is that Lions restricted free agent, who the Lions placed the right of refusal tender on a little while back, Brock Wright, has signed an offer sheet from the San Francisco 49ers, and the Detroit Lions now have 5 days to match, is what that number was set at, $2.985 million, and essentially it meant that Brock Wright had an opportunity to go negotiate with other teams, and if he got an offer from another team, he could sign that offer sheet like he did with the San Francisco 49ers, and then it goes back to the Lions. And I believe he could have done this through April 19th, and we would expect it's going to be over $3 million at least in terms of that cap number. I don't know. I haven't seen the details in terms of what they've actually offered him. I don't know that we'll get that information until we officially know where he's going to sign, whether that's the Lions match it or they don't match it. But essentially, it's that simple. If the Detroit Lions decide to match the offer that San Fran gave Brock Wright, then in that case, Brock Wright would be back as a Detroit Lion at that price point. If the Lions decide not to match that, he would go to the San Francisco 49ers. So if anything, one thing it does tell you is that there is another team in the league that has value in Brock Wright, even more so than what the initial right of refusal number was. There's real value that San Francisco sees in Brock Wright. And I don't want to sit here and do like a full breakdown on Brock Wright, one, because I don't know what his decision's going or what our decision is going to be. We can dive into that a little bit more later. But also, when the Lions did this, I think we showed some clips and kind of dove into him a little bit as well in that video. However, to me, this does seem like a pretty significant special teams type of move. We just recently got the news that, for example, kickoffs, we're going to see significant changes and how that's going to become a huge part of the game. And as soon as that happened, you have teams signing kick returners and like, okay, let's get this guy for special teams. And to me, this kind of does give me the vibe that this could have a lot to do with that rule change. Maybe not all of it. I think Brock Wright, obviously, he adds value outside of special teams as well. For us, flexibility. He's played fullback for us, inline tight end. Majority of the time, he plays inline over 300 snaps this past year. Played slot, played wide, played all the way until the week 15 game. He's never been a big receiving, threat, 13 receptions on 14 targets, 91 yards, and a touchdown. But he's always been a really strong pass protector. He always shows up in big moments. While his route tree is very limited, there are ways that he can be truly effective, and a lot of times it's not much after the catch, but he has made some big-time grabs for us, had very reliable hands. He had a 117 passer rating when targeted this past season, and he was kind of the number 2 to Sam Laporta, but it allowed us to open up that 12 personnel looks this past season, get defenses to match that personnel, and a lot of times we would attack them with Sam Laporta, but Brock Wright had value there, and I think he gives us a lot of value as a pass protector and also flexibility as a run blocker, especially in, today where you have a lot of these college tight ends that are coming out. I won't say all of them, but you definitely have a lot of tight ends that will come out of the draft, and they're undersized of your typical inline tight end, whether that's a little bit they're on the lighter side or more of a kind of a receiving threat, or they just don't line inline whatsoever. Brock Wright kind of is a little bit of a throwback in that sense. Again, he could be an effective receiver. He's not a guy that you're going to have a deep route tree detailed for him, but he'll catch the ball when the ball is thrown his way, and he comes through in big moments. He's not going to do a ton after the catch, but again, he's a little bit of a throwback style with his size, 6'5", 250. He gives you some of that. So there's that aspect, but then there's also the special teams aspect. And the 3 units that we really saw him play on this past season was field goal kick, but also punt coverage and kick return. So again, this could definitely have something to do with the special teams value that San Fran maybe views that he could add to the table. Now, that's the first thing. We'll have to see what the Lions' decision is there. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what the number is. I would assume it's not much higher than the right of refusal deal, maybe just over $3 million. That's kind of my assumption. We'll find out when we know. However, I really would not be surprised knowing that the Detroit Lions put that number initially, putting the tender on Brock Wright, that they already had interest in bringing him back, that if that number is not much higher, that the Detroit Lions just say, you know what, we're going to sign that. We want him back. They value special teams players. They value Brock Wright and what he adds to this offense. It wouldn't surprise me. Do I think it's necessary? Not necessarily. I'm personally a big James Mitchell guy, and I thought pass protection is an area where he flashed a ton as he started to get more snaps. Plus, the Lions utilized sixth offensive line, which at times could kind of take his role away. And also, of course, you get a lot of 11 personnel. Because I like what the Lions have with James Mitchell. I thought he stepped up when we needed him to towards the end of the year. Shane Zylstra is now back, but Shane Zylstra doesn't really fill the same kind of role, but he is back. I don't think it's necessary. The Lions do bring Brock Wright back, but I would honestly expect that if the number is similar, the Lions probably will. Talked about the Lions salary cap space. So here we are. I'm back on Spotrac, and I realized you guys could not see it when I was doing it in my last video. So let me slide that over. Now you can see estimated cap space top 51, 21.6 million. Now I want to put that into context. Currently, according to Spotrac in the NFL, that would place the Lions 12th. And that's important because while Lions only have 62 players signed at this point in time, according to Spotrac, what's important about that is, again, the top 51 is what's counting throughout the offseason. So that's really the important number here. And as you can see, that would place the Lions right next to Green Bay and Chicago in cap space. So they're really tight next to each other. So there's not much of a difference there either. And Minnesota's farther down. So that is not a bad amount of cap space. I want to make that clear first, okay? 21.6, it's not bad. Again, we have the draft to throw into there, but it's not bad. However, I think one thing that I kind of made a little bit confusing, and this is on me because I was a little bit confused by it, to be honest, and I got kind of confused between the differences between Spotrac and Over the Cap, and I was like, where are the numbers being thrown off here? Because if you go over to Over the Cap, and we'll move to that now, and you look at the top here, you can see the cap space here is 26.6 million. And I'm like, I don't know how that number is so different. It's okay, it's just a little bit off. Why is the number so different? And I think I found the answer to why it's so significantly different. And here is the answer. So first off, we have Carlton Davis. His contract to me is, I think, what's the difference. As you see over here on Over the Cap, you can see on the bottom when you scroll down, they give out the contract notes. And their contract notes essentially say we were initially reported what the Lions did when they restructured Carlton Davis, which was, as you can see right here, they restructured his contract, converting $6 million in salary to a bonus. The move reduced his 2024 cap number by $4.5 million. That is what we were told happened. They reduced it by $4.5 million. They're saying they reduced his cap number. So now here over on Spotrac, they basically did it exactly how we were reported as fans that this was broken down, how his contract was broken down. And that was that the Detroit Lions took $6 million of his base salary, which was originally set at $14 million, dropped it to $8 million by taking $6 million of that, converting that into signing bonus, and then spreading that out through void years that they created on his contract. And that's essentially how Spotrac laid it out here. However, there is still some confusingness to this because by the way that they laid it out, they put an extra year on the contract here, which doesn't actually make any sense because if you look, their signing bonus that they're attributing here would be part of the Detroit Lions restructuring that deal. So technically, you wouldn't be saving $6 million. You'd be saving $4.5 million, not $6 million because it still counts for this year. They put an extra year when they talked about spreading it out. So as you can see, they have $6 million just in years spread out plus the 1.5. So essentially, they're almost breaking this down as if, hey, actually, it's $7.5 million they took from his base salary and restructured. So that alone leads to some confusion because as you can also see, they have it listed here, $4.5 million. So basically is that if he's not on the roster after the season and his contract expires, Lions don't bring him back, and it's just, hey, this cap hit's going to accelerate. All that dead cap's going to accelerate. Bam, you deal with that then. Well, they have that listed at $4.5 million, right? That's all the void years accelerating. The confusing thing about this is that, again, they have 4 years here. So they put an extra year on here, which would essentially should make this number $6 million by the way that they broke it down. As you can see, there's 4 years, $6 million, but they just listed it at 4.5. Could have just been that they put an extra year on there and there was some confusion there. I don't know what's going on with this one. This is how we were told it, so this would make sense. And you can see they have the cap hit now at $9.8 million and the 14.3 that it was. So that would be $4.5 million. The numbers make sense. They just put an extra year on there for some reason. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. The Lions could have gotten more creative than just as simple as laying that out is, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But as you can see, theirs is laid out a little bit different here, actually much different here. The base salary dropped to $8 million, just as is reported, just as Spotrac said, is that, hey, they took $14 million, moved it to $8 million, so they took $6 million, made it into a signing bonus. And that's kind of what's represented by the base salary. However, you can see their cap number, look, in the void years, the cap number is now pushing $10 million versus what, according to Spotrac, it would be $4.5 million. His base salary is not $8 million. Almost the way that they kind of like broke this down makes it look as if the base salary should not be $8 million. Instead, that should be much lower. Like the Lions actually converted a lot more than just $8 million, and maybe they did, and I just didn't see this. And then the signing bonus becomes much larger. Now, when you spread it out, you can see the numbers become a lot higher. And when the numbers become a lot higher, now all of a sudden you can see that that equals your dead money with the prorated signing bonus. And that would just mean that the base salary number is off. So now you get a much lower cap at 4.5. So if Spotrac is correct, then their 21.6 $12.6 million in cap space would be more accurate. And then obviously, again, we still have to kind of wait on, okay, the base salary type of situation. Like, are the Lions going to be able to get any of that money back that became fully guaranteed, which normally you would, but again, it became fully guaranteed before he was let go by the Lions post June 1st cut. So we still have to wait to see what's going to happen with that money, which could shake up the cap space as well. Also, the other aspect I want to make clear is that $12.68 million cap hit, that is what they are listing him with here. And the reason they're doing that is base salary plus the signing bonus, $12.68 million. I want to make clear that that would have been the same cap hit if the Lions didn't do anything. So according to this, right, you have all that base salary Lions are having to deal with. Then you have the signing bonus, which is, hey, Detroit Lions, they took it, they split it between 2 years with the post-June 1st cut, and they're just taking the $2.18 million, and then they're pushing it back $6.5 million to next season's dead cap. So they're spreading it out like that. And that's, you know, how we were kind of broken in, that's how it was going to happen. With that being said, though, that would still be that same number, $12.68 million, as it was if he was on the roster. The only difference then, I believe it was at $12.68 before this even happened.
So yes, looking back through, $12.68 million was set to be his cap hit this season. I believe it was also set to be that next season as well. And then, of course, they also had voidable years, so that pushes back into the contract. But the Lions had essentially locked themselves in for the first 2 years with Sutton when they originally gave him the deal. And as you can see here, it looks like $9 million of the $10.5, what we're talking about, kind of that base becoming guaranteed, was already guaranteed. The $1.5 became guaranteed on the third day of the new league year in 2024. And I believe that's what I originally had, and I sent that over to Easy, but I heard a lot of like the 10.5 stuff. But I believe $9 million of that was already guaranteed. It was just 1.5 more became guaranteed. So I don't know if that's something that the Lions can push back on as a full 10.5 million for the base salary, see if they can get some of that back. But I would assume that they can, because it's still technically base salary, even though some of it was fully guaranteed. So I don't know how that's going to affect things. I guess we'll just have to see how that shakes out. But I think that's an important note to this.
The only difference would be that he's just not on the roster, but you still have the same cap hit. So I don't want to make it sound as if like, oh my goodness, Lions are losing tons of money because of this Cam Sutton situation. Not necessarily according to Spotrac. It's more so just the fact that he's not on the roster. That's really the main difference here. So that's where I think some of the confusion lied for me specifically, and I'm going to go with the $21.6 million cap it. Again, the Lions are still financially in a good spot there, and if you look at the market on free agency, there's not like big splash signings that are likely going to happen for the Lions. They could make some moves, but you don't see a lot of big contracts that are going to have to be, you know, put their cap it this season. It is a real thing that 2025, we have some cap numbers that we do have to pay. Brock Wright's going to be very interesting. He's kind of the next guy up, but I just kind of want to make that clear here that financially speaking, there was some confusion within that last video, and I want to make sure that there wasn't that kind of confusion when I walked away from that video. There's still a lot of things, though, that I think are still we're trying to all figure out. With that being said, though, I'm going to leave it right there. Brock Wright, we'll see what the Lions decide to do. Let me know. What do you think the Lions are going to do with Brock Wright? If I had to guess, I think the Lions end up bringing Brock Wright back. I don't know what that number said, but if I had to guess, I would assume the Detroit Lions are going to match it, and they're going to bring him back. That would be my guess. Could be wrong on that, though, but that's kind of just the sense, the vibe that I got, because I don't think the Lions have many big free agency moves that they're like, we have to go make this one. They can fill out their roster. Top 51 is what matters. They have financially ability to do that. And then also, again, the draft picks, even according to Spotrac, it's only just under $6 million. So I think they'll probably bring back Brock Wright as long as the number isn't significantly higher. And then outside of that, I don't think we're going to see a lot of free agent moves. Maybe we'll get some here and there. We'll probably get some smaller ones. And then you'll have the draft class. You'll have undrafted free agents. I think that's how they'll fill out the rest of the roster. But maybe a big vet comes along the way. But I don't think we're going to see much more before the draft. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.